Gentlemen, how do you tell if your woman is team clit or team vag? How do you tell what her best way, most easiest way of achieving orgasm is? Well, that is the topic for today's video, so let's get stuck into it. My name is Sterling Cooper. I'm an award-winning adult film star. I'm also a former high-class male companion, and this is my YouTube channel. Welcome. Now, time to take a deep dive into the female anatomy, practical female anatomy, in terms of orgasms. Now, obviously, some women have a preference for one type of orgasm over the other. So a vaginal orgasm versus a clitoral orgasm. Not every woman is the same. They all have the same plumbing, though, and that's very important. They all have the same capacity for orgasm because they all have the same physiological nerve endings, pressure points, erogenous zones, etc. So, it's important for us to sort of figure out, as partners, as lovers, it's important for us to figure out what type of orgasmer they are. What type of orgasm is the easiest and or most preferential for them. Because, well, having said that, sometimes the orgasm that is easier for her to achieve isn't the one that is the most intense. Now, this preference for orgasm type, vaginal versus clitoral, typically comes down to a few things. Comes down to how they themselves masturbate, okay? It comes down to their early sexual experiences and their first experiences of climaxing during sex. This will typically anchor in neural pathways, and it'll make their psychology associate orgasm with a particular physical stimulus. So there's a few things that are kind of out of our control there, but that we can kind of look at and pay attention to, in particular, how they themselves masturbate. Now, typically it's easier to make a woman orgasm from clitoral stimulation than it is from vaginal stimulation. However, both are totally achievable with enough patience and enough practice and enough feedback from your partner. So I want to preface this with that statement. And one more thing, if you can introduce her to a new type of orgasm that she doesn't have as much, or it's harder for her herself to achieve, or it's been harder for her previous partners to get her off that particular way, my friend, if you can unlock the key to getting her to orgasm that way, well then you, my friend, will have a woman who is obsessed with you. Now, like I said, most women find a clitoral orgasm to be easier to achieve than a vaginal orgasm. So I'm going to start with a few rules to remember when it comes to invoking clitoral orgasms in women. So pay attention. Start taking some notes. So the first thing is watch how she masturbates. Watch how she touches herself. Hell, even ask her to touch herself, purely so you can sit there and observe it if you want to. But pay attention to a few things. Pay attention to the speed at which she moves her hand over her clitoris. Pay attention to the rhythm, the motion that she makes. Is it up and down? Is it left and right? Is it clockwise? Is it anti-clockwise? These are actually very important things to pay attention to, because if she masturbates a certain way, if that's, the way her nerve endings respond, if they respond to a clockwise motion versus instead of an anti-clockwise motion, then you don't want to be a dumbass who's doing the complete opposite to what she actually enjoys and likes to get off to. And you don't want to do something that's completely nowhere on the spectrum. If she likes to, for example, go left to right over her clitoris, and your dumbass is going up and down, yeah, it might be new, it might be novel, but it's not necessarily going to get her to where she wants to go or needs to go in order for her to climax. The second thing I'll say about getting a woman to orgasm from the clitoris is slow and soft is always a good place to start. Let me elaborate. When you start off with very, very slow and very, very soft stimulation on the clitoris, yes, not every woman likes, slow and soft stimulation, or can get off to slow and soft stimulation. Some women like it really intense, really extreme. Some women like it's somewhere in between those 2 points. But here's where I'm getting at. If you start slowly and softly and then gradually build up the intensity, you will be able to find her sweet spot. If you, let's say this end is the very soft and sensual, not soft and sensual, but soft and slow. This end is soft and slow, and this end is very, very fast and hard pressure. And let's say she's somewhere here, okay? If you start hard and like fast and hard pressure, well then you're already too intense for her, right? You've already overstimulated the clitoris. You actually will probably have numbed it a little bit, right? So by starting off at the slow soft end and building your way up, you will eventually hit, with enough patience, you will find her sweet spot. And then you just stay there at that pressure and that speed that she likes and she responds best to. And how do you tell that? Well, you listen to it, you listen to feedback, you watch her body cues, you watch her physical cues. I have an entire video on that. And this allows you to kind of customize your clitoral stimulation to any woman. Because if you can start slow and soft and then work your way across the spectrum to harder and faster, well, every woman is somewhere along that spectrum. So eventually, again, with enough patience and practice, you will be able to figure out any woman's, or the key to getting any woman off through clitoral stimulation. Now, the third thing I'll say about clitoral stimulation and clitoral orgasms is it doesn't matter if it's fingers, tongue, toys, penis, whatever it is, whatever you're using to stimulate the clitoris, these same rules apply, okay? Watch the way that watch the motion and the rhythm that she uses, and then starting slow and soft and working your way up to her point. These rules apply whether you're using a vibrator, using a toy, whether you're using your fingers, whether you're using your tongue. All these rules apply to these different means of stimulating the clitoris, no matter what they are. Now, in terms of getting a woman off vaginally, producing a vaginal orgasm in a woman. First thing I will say is consistency and speed are very, very important. If you're with a partner who communicates very well, and she tells you she's getting close, first thing you want to do, by your particular, whatever you're doing penetratively, like however you're penetrating her, let's say you're getting her close to orgasm, first thing you want to do is do not stop. Do not change your speed, do not change your rhythm, do not change what you're doing, just consistency. You gotta keep, if she is approaching orgasm, keep doing whatever the hell it is that you're doing and do not change a goddamn thing about it. Think about it this way. Here's an analogy that I like to give guys that kind of helps them understand this. Imagine a girl is going down on you and she's giving you an amazing blowjob, like it's the perfect blowjob. You've never had something so perfect, right? So she's going down on you, she's giving this perfect blowjob, and then all of a sudden, she just changes and starts doing something completely different. And you'd be like, no, stop, go back to that thing you were just doing a minute ago. That was perfect, that was getting me there. That's exactly what it's like for a woman when you chop and you change the way your rhythm and your speed and your intensity, be it with your penis or be it with your hand and your tongue, whatever you're doing. This also applies to clitoral orgasms as well as vaginal, by the way. You've got to keep that consistent speed, that consistent pressure, that consistent rhythm. Whatever it is that is getting her close to that orgasm, you keep doing it. Now, our next point with producing a vaginal orgasm in our partner is fitness and cardio play a massive role here. And that's because you're going to need a fair bit of pressure and you're going to need a fair bit of consistent pounding and stimulation on the sweet spots inside of her vagina to even evoke a vaginal orgasm out of most women. So cardio and stamina are the keys to really producing a vaginal orgasm in a woman. Your cardio and your stamina, I might add. You need to be intense with your pounding, right? With your thrusting, especially after you've found the sweet spot. And that is where we get to my third point here about producing vaginal orgasms. It's all about finding that sweet spot for her. So this is all about angles and positions and figuring out what position is the one that puts your dick and the head of your dick, most importantly, in the right spot in her vagina to hit that sweet spot to make her come. Now, 9 times out of 10, this is the position that leads to the head of your penis stimulating her G-spot the most. That is typically the way that most women have a penetrative vaginal orgasm, is from you repeatedly stimulating the G-spot with the head of your penis. And there's various different ways that you can produce different angles with basic positions or more advanced positions that's going to lead to stimulating that spot the most and applying the most pressure to that spot. So, remembering these previous points I talked about, be consistent with that and be intense with that. So you have to have your cardio on point. And if you want to learn these different ways to adjust basic sex positions, hit those angles properly, then check out this video right here.